Hey guys, welcome back to another Dollar Tree budget-friendly DIY video. I said Dollar Tree, but actually some of these items are just recycled, upcycled. Some are, I have a Hobby Lobby clearance item, but essentially you could do this all without Dollar Tree items if you wanted. But I've got a little bit of spring, a little bit of Easter, just kind of all mixed in there together. But without anything further, let's get started with the first DIY.
Okay, so for this first one, I have this jar that had honey in it, and I've saved this for quite some time. And we are going to make a little honey jar out of it because, I mean, why not? So I chose this really bright yellow, actually it's called Bright Yellow by Apple Barrel, because I wanted it to match something else some little bees will be using. But you could also make it more of like a golden honey color if you wanted. I just went with this because I was using these little bees. So I've done this technique before where you pour paint inside of a jar. I've done it multiple times. This was just, I don't know, really thick for me. So I kept adding in just a tiny, tiny bit of water. I didn't want it runny. And I shook it up. Of course, that made a little bit of bubbles in the paint. But I'm going to take you through the journey. It really came out great. It just wasn't seeming to do what I thought it would do. But you want to pour the paint in. It probably is going to vary based on the type of paint. It's okay to thin it out, but like I said, do not thin it out very much. You don't want it watery or too like see-through. And ideally, you're just going to kind of hold the jar and turn it until it's all coated. It does take a little bit of time. I'm obviously shaking the heck out of it. But yeah, I didn't want too much paint in because you have to drain any extra paint out as well. I actually had a lot more extra in there than I thought I was going to when all was said and done. So maybe I just forgot how patient I needed to be. I was showing you there the bubbles that had shown up from the shaking, but that actually all ended up going away. It was not a problem at all in the end. But here I wasn't sure about it, so I was just thinking about it. So there's the slowly turning, just trying to make sure the last little bit is, you can see my face when I'm looking at stuff. Usually don't get to see my face. I'm really concentrating. Wanting to turn it slowly to coat, this is quite sped up, to coat every spot. And then once I felt like everything was well coated, we will, well, it wasn't quite yet. We're going to turn it upside down to drain out the excess paint. But I did want to mention that you could use any jar you had. You could use one of those little bear, like honey bear jars would be cute as well. You could use just a regular jar. You could use something from the Dollar Tree. They have all sorts out there. But I like to save stuff from my kitchen when I see something that I think could be used. So I let it set a few times just to try to get the bubbles to go away. Once I felt like everything looked pretty good, I took it, I put it upside down in this container, left it for like a while, hours, overnight. And then there was quite a bit of paint left that had come out. So then I put it in a cup which held it up away from what was pouring out because I didn't want it pooled around the rim. So I hope that makes sense. And then I let it sit upright as well to dry out before I was closing it up. So it took a lot of time to dry, but the project itself was very easy to do. And then I'm sorry for the blurriness. This happens in a few of the frames, and I'm not sure why. It didn't look like it to me when I was recording, but I guess I need to pay closer attention. The only thing I can think of is that it was having trouble focusing. Anyways, I'm using these black little letter stickers from the Dollar Tree. They also come in red and green, maybe something else. And I'm using the little hook tool. This is from the Dollar Tree, but I think it's supposed to replicate like a Cricut tool. And it's very, very handy for things like this. I kind of touch the end of the sticker with it and lay it down. And I'm just laying down the bottom of the stickers. I'm not pressing them all the way until I have them laid out. Then once it all looks straight and good, I'm pressing them down. Here I do decide to move the Y, but I just put on letters for sweet as honey. And the idea with painting the inside of the jar means that the paint isn't going to scratch off when you're doing stuff with it. You can also Mod Podge the letters on top if you want. I did not. I know I Mod Podge everything, but I did not. I left the lid white because I liked it. And then I took these little they do have a sticker on them. I don't think they're called stickers, but there was 12 in a pack at the Dollar Tree, which I thought was a really great value. And then there's these little like foam stickers on the back, but I didn't want them elevated or raised, so I just pulled that off, and I'm using a little bit of hot glue and we're just going to put a couple of these on. I didn't do anything more than that. If you had a cute bee-themed ribbon, you could tie that around across the top, but I thought this was just good as is and would look really cute in a tiered tray. But I will show you the finished product at the end. I've been doing that lately. I don't know. Let me know. Do you guys like it, or do you like to see the finished DIY after each project? All right, so moving on to the next one, I am taking a wooden skewer and some beads, and I just kind of went through what I had. Some were painted, some were not, and I'm getting 6 beads altogether, 2 in 3 different sizes, so you can see them there. And then we're going to paint with the Harvest Orange by Apple Barrel. Now, I was going to use my chalk paint because I figured that would be easier to cover like that dark bead, but my orange paint was just about gone, my Waverly chalk paint, and it was completely dried up. There was hardly anything at the bottom. So, hooray for using a complete bottle of paint though. That's great. So this took a couple of coats, especially on the dark bead. I just let it dry in between. But there's lots of ways of painting beads. I'm using my hairdryer there in between. But I wanted to try this one on the skewer, and it worked really good. And then once that was dry, we're going to move on. I pulled these green leaves. This was from my stash. I had pulled them off of a flower pick, and then I pulled the little plastic piece at the bottom of them that like would put it onto the stem. I pulled that off too. And again, here's another blurry frame, but I'm leaving it in so you can see you can still see what I'm doing. It's just not as pleasant to look at. And sorry for the light beams there, but they poked through the blinds. Anyways, I kind of just pinched together the end. I ended up using the low temp on my glue gun, so I ended up just forgetting the finger protectors and going for it. But I'm just tying the twine around the end of the greenery. We're making just the greenery for the top of a carrot, if you haven't figured that one out. And so I'm just kind of checking to see how it'll fit with the wooden bead. And I tie a little knot and put a little bit more glue in there. And then once I feel like that is nice and secure, we're going to just thread on our beads from biggest to smallest, just because that's the shape of a carrot. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a ton. It lets YouTube know that you like what I'm doing. And if you're new here, I would love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I like sharing easy, budget-friendly DIYs here on this channel using all sorts of budget-friendly items. So then at the end, I just tied a knot, and this was a very thin piece of twine. So I put a little bit of hot glue, but then I tied the knot like 2 or 3 more times to make sure that it was a nice big knot, and then I added a little bit more glue and trimmed off the end of the twine. Now I have seen these done many different ways on Pinterest, and I've seen different types of greenery. I've seen the tops just being twine, leaving a tail at the end with some twine. So many different ways you could do that. All right, so for our next and final DIY, I have this sign that I picked up from Hobby Lobby clearance. I paid 79 cents for it, and it was a good, firm piece, great structure, so that's pretty much what I look for. I'm going to sand this down so that the print doesn't poke through as much. I'm going to use my little vacuum to get the dust and use a baby wipe to clean it off. Now, if I had sanded it better, maybe a higher grit, lower grit, a tougher sandpaper, I can never remember how that goes, or like an electric sander, I probably would have needed 3 coats of paint. But nonetheless, I painted this with Waverly chalk paint in the color white. Just got my brand new bottle of white chalk paint. So yeah, I'm actually using up some colors. That's nice. And I'm just going to let that thoroughly dry in between, but I just wanted a nice plain base for this project. This is going to be my Easter one, although I suppose the carrot one could be Easter too, although I like those more just like springy to me, but or Farmhouse, just like Farmhouse-y as well, I guess. Anyways, we're going to do a combo of rub-on transfers from the Dollar Tree and then some stickers. These particular stickers, I believe, are from Hobby Lobby. As you can see, I had previously painted some of them too. You can paint stickers. And I'm using my little tool once again to get them lined up. And I always start in the middle and work my way out if I want it centered. That just helps. Once again, just push down the bottoms of the letters until you have them placed where you want them. and then we're going to apply our rub-on transfers. And when you're applying these, you just want to, some of them, these transferred really easy. So I just using my little scraper tool, being very careful to not scrape the paint like outside of where the little transfers that I'm doing. And just pulling it up slowly to make sure it's all transferring well. And like I said, these ones transferred really, really easily. So I put on He Is Risen, and I wanted to keep this one simple, but I did want something added on here. So I'm going in with a pencil. You do not have to be artistic. I'm not super artistic, but I had found an image of the like 3 crosses on the hill, kind of like an outline image, and just I jotted it down, sketched it down on a piece of paper for me to look at while I did this. And then we're going to go in with the Hippie acrylic paint markers. They sent those to me a couple months ago. I will leave a link for them down in the description box for you if you are interested. And you just shake them up, and that wasn't the first time I used this one, so I didn't really have to work the paint down to the tip. And drawing over, but it's paint, but I'm basically just drawing over my pencil marks. And this was super easy to do. I love these paint markers. I need to use them more often. And I just kind of carefully, this is sped up. I took my time, went over them till I just had it looking the way I wanted. I wasn't sure how thick I wanted to do like the hill portion, so at one point I paused and let the paint dry for a moment, and then went and looked at a couple more images again. Here's a much clearer picture. See, that's focused, nice. Just because I just wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to do it. So I just look at pictures to get ideas, and once the paint is dry, you could seal this whole thing with Mod Podge if you wanted to help keep the stickers on, but I didn't. I just kind of did it like this. And I thought about adding some twine kind of wrapped around the edge of the sign or something just to add another detail, but I really just liked the simplicity of this one and let the message speak for itself. But there's lots of varieties of ways you could do this. So here is my He Is Risen sign. I was pretty pleased with my little freehand drawing and how that came out. And my little carrot. I have this displayed with a little moss bunny from Dollar Tree, but making a few of these would be really cute. I think I'll probably use this on a tiered tray with some spring stuff. So I thought that was fun, and I would definitely make a few more of these. And our little honey jar, and I love how that one came out as well. Very perfect for a tiered tray. That is it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Let me know which one is your favorite down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.